An apple is a cellular carbohydrate. The sugar present in an apple is wrapped up in a fiber cell. Apple juice is an acellular carbohydrate. If you were to drink apple juice, it doesn't even need to be digested. It'll pass through your epithelial lining and it'll spike your blood sugar very quickly. But fiber does an amazing job of slowing down the digestion of our carbohydrates and slowing down the release of glucose.
Today we have Kelly LeVeque on the show. And if you don't know who she is, Kelly, well, first of all, she is a mom of 3 boys, and she is very well known for her Fab Four smoothies, blood sugar regulation, and all things fertility. And if you're not looking to conceive, or maybe you want to conceive in 3 years from now, this is definitely an episode to listen into, because it's not just for those wanting to get pregnant today or tomorrow, but in the future. And if you never want to get pregnant, this is still a great episode, because we talk about all things blood sugar regulation and how it can impact your health, your children. And I personally just enjoyed it. And I mean, we're going to have her back, because the conversation was fire until the very end. So take a listen. And again, I always appreciate your support. If you haven't already subscribed to the show, in fact, if you're listening and you just listen in every week, if you actually hit that follow button, it really helps the show so that I can get more high profile guests on the show so that it's a better experience for everyone. So the more followers and viewers, listeners, and the more podcast reviews really does help the show, and it impacts it greatly, and we can get better guests just like Kelly LeVeque, which I'm so excited for you guys to listen into. So you guys know this already, but you're listening to the Digest This podcast, and I'm your host, Bethany Cameron. Let's get right into it. Well, thank you so much, Kelly, for joining me today. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Oh, it's so fun to finally sit face to face, even though we're through Zoom, just to connect. I mean, it's the pleasure's all mine.
Yeah, so I'm sure everyone knows you, knows all that what you're about. But in case people don't know you, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. So I am a clinical nutritionist that focuses on blood sugar balance. I've been in this field. I moved into this field after 8 years in cancer and genetics. It's my passion. I went back to school for it and started writing books. So I'm an author of Body Love and Body Love Every Day. I launched the Be Well by Kelly podcast a few years ago, and I'm the mom of 3. So I have a private practice, products, community, and I share as much as I can online so that people can learn how to balance their blood sugar through food.
You're like Superwoman. You literally do it all while being a mom of three boys, correct?
Yeah, it's a Grom squad over here.
Wow.
A lot of energy.
Okay. Well, I have tons of questions, but first of all, I like to start my podcast out with rapid fire yes or no questions.
Okay.
And all you can do, you can only answer yes or no. And there's like 4 or 5 questions. Okay. You ready? So first question, is infertility mostly due to the women's side?
No.
Is social media impacting our fertility?
Yes.
Is blood sugar the number one factor when it comes to infertility in both men and women?
No.
Okay. You struggled there, so I want to go back into that. All right. And
that's not really a yes or no. There's a lot of nuance there.
Okay. All right. Last question. Are there prenatals for men?
Yes.
Very interesting. Okay, you guys, listen up. If you have the following symptoms, such as constipation or diarrhea, anxiety, sugar or alcohol cravings, poor immune system, compulsive or disordered eating, low muscle mass, poor wound healing, slow recovery after workouts, heartburn or acid reflux, or digestive issues like colitis, IBS, diverticulitis, Crohn's, celiac disease, or symptoms from food sensitivities, taking L-glutamine could be beneficial. L-glutamine is one of the most important nutrients for a healthy digestive tract because of its ability to maintain the integrity of the intestinal wall. This amino acid, which is the most abundant amino acid in our body, helps heal all human tissues, especially those irritated tissues in the digestive tract. It's also been known as the calming amino acid since it's very effective at reducing anxiety, as well as sugar and alcohol cravings. Even progressive addiction treatment centers will use it to help reduce cravings. Plus, get this, you guys, in a 2011 study published in the Yonsei Medical Journal found that glutamine supports the immune system, and it's especially beneficial for patients in the hospital and those fighting viruses or overwhelming infections. Your entire immune system is protected from the toxic environment by your gut barrier. And if that barrier gets damaged, you will get sick and create an overactive immune system, producing inflammation throughout the body. Thankfully, a damaged gut lining can be reversed and can be accomplished by getting enough gut healing nutrients such as L-glutamine. Clinically, medical professionals have found this to be true with their clients, and I myself have experienced the benefits. That's why I created my very own L-glutamine powder under Bethany's Pantry. This powder is pure without any additives, fillers, flavorings, gums, or unnecessary ingredients. The ingredients are literally just one: L-glutamine. It's vegan, paleo, keto, and tasteless. So you can literally just add it to a glass of water, stir for 5 seconds, and sip without tasting anything. This amino acid also works well in smoothies, mixed in yogurt. I've even added it to my guacamole. It dissolves instantly and you can't even tell it's there. And your body will thank you from all the benefits you're giving it to fully heal in the area you need healing, or just boosting your immune system in prep for the upcoming flu season. Guys, I am so proud to finally offer a clean L-glutamine powder I can fully recommend. If you want a bag, just go to newzest-usa.com/Bethany's Pantry, where you'll find this plus all my other Bethany's Pantry items. Again, go to newzest-usa.com/Bethany's Pantry. That's nuzest-usa.com/Bethany's Pantry. I'll also leave that link in today's show notes. Lately, I've been drinking a lot of water, which is a good thing, but the bad thing is that I get up in the middle of the night to pee and I have a hard time falling back asleep. So I often end up lying awake while my mind thinks about all the things I have to do the next day, and it ends up killing my energy levels, not to mention weakening my immune system from the lack of sleep needed and all the rest. So if you have trouble falling asleep, or perhaps like me, going back to sleep once awake, I totally get you. That's why I wanted to share about Magnesium Breakthrough. I started taking it and it's truly helped solve several sleep problems from tossing and turning. And the best part, after a great night's sleep, is that I don't wake up groggy the next morning. Magnesium Breakthrough has been a game changer. And what a lot of people don't know is that magnesium is responsible for over 600 different biochemical reactions in the body. It promotes healthy sleep to help you just fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, and have more peaceful nights. It also supports stress management, muscle recovery, helps reduce and prevent muscle cramps, and is needed to help build strong bones. Unlike many other magnesium supplements that might be giving you 1 to 2 forms of magnesium, Magnesium Breakthrough contains all 7 forms of magnesium designed to help calm your mind and help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. Not only does Magnesium Breakthrough help you sleep better, it also helps calm your mind and allows you to feel grounded and relaxed even during the daytime. Magnesium Breakthrough is soy-free, gluten-free, vegan, and the best part is that Bioptimizers has a 365-day money-back guarantee. That is an entire year you can try this product, and if you're not satisfied, you'll get your money back. So if you want to nurture your mind and body with this all-natural, full-spectrum magnesium supplement, go to bioptimizers.com/digest and use code DIGEST at checkout to save 10%. In addition to the discount you get by using my code, you can get up to 2 travel-size bottles of Magnesium Breakthrough for free. This is a limited time offer to my listeners, so act fast. Again, just go to bioptimizers.com/digest and use code DIGEST. That's bioptimizers.com/digest and use code DIGEST. Okay, so now that we've piqued our listeners' interest, I kind of want to go back and I want to first talk about oxidative stress. Now, that I've heard that could be one of the main factors of miscarriages and infertility.
Yeah, so 1 in 3 pregnancies will end in miscarriage, and oxidative stress is what causes chromosomal abnormalities. And chromosomal abnormalities can happen to both and in both egg and sperm. And so if egg and sperm are coming together to make an embryo, it's a 50% chance that that oxidative stress, which causes chromosomal abnormalities, can be from the man or from the woman. And so when we think about protecting our DNA, which is the DNA present in sperm and present in egg, we want to protect that DNA from oxidative stress that would cause chromosomal abnormalities, since chromosomal abnormalities are the #1 cause of miscarriage. So that can come from, 50% from the man and 50% from the woman. And when we want to kind of work our way backwards. So it's going to take on average about 100 days for an egg to develop. And it's going to take 72 to 74 days for sperm to develop. And so we really want to take care of the developing egg and the developing sperm 3 months to 6 months prior to trying to conceive. And so a lot of people think like, oh, I'm so worried about getting pregnant because, I, maybe used to binge drink in college, or I had a smoking problem, or I worked in, an environment that there were endocrine disrupting chemicals all the time. So there's a number of things that cause oxidative stress. And I just want to preface this by saying, look, if you're living life, you're coming in contact with oxidative stress. I mean, my phone's on airplane mode right next to me right now, but the reality is I have probably LED lights above me. I am driving in a car that has EMF. I am in smog. I'm dealing with the stress of getting my kids out the door in the morning. As much as I try to buy organic and source clean proteins that don't have, pesticides or hormones or anything like that, our family eats out sometimes, and there's just going to be things that are unavoidable when it comes to oxidative stress. So please know that if you're living, do not be stressed out by living. There's oxidative stress everywhere, but the key is when you think about that 3 to 6 months prior to getting pregnant, this is when you want to really get serious about lowering the stressors in your life. And so there are so many ways to do that. First and foremost, you want to think about all of the known stressor, oxidative stress inducing agents like alcohol, marijuana, cigarette smoke, over-the-counter medications that you're maybe just not realizing can be stressful on the body, like popping Advil or Tylenol, popping allergy medications, things that need to be processed in the liver, that are affecting your microbiome. And what your body does when it's in contact with drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, or marijuana, your body's going to fight that oxidative stress with internal antioxidants, endogenous antioxidants like glutathione. And when you think about all the antioxidants or polyphenols, carotenoids, all those wonderful phytonutrients that you eat from your food, like just think the colorful vegetables and fruits like that, those are going to help you kind of protect against those things. But when you're looking in that preconception window, we want to cut out the major ones, right? So then you want to think about, okay, well, outside of sort of the alcohol, smoking, over-the-counter medications that I can eliminate, what can I do next? Then you can look at endocrine disrupting chemicals. So these are going to be everything from phthalates to pesticides. So this would be a prime time if you haven't invested in purchasing organic or sourcing cleaner sources of meats, to pull out things that might be contaminated with pesticides or antibiotics or hormones, unbeknownst to your knowledge. So this would be the time to cook at home, to source your veggies organic, to also consider looking at when you are in contact with plastics. So do you just grab a crate of plastic water bottles from Costco or Walmart? Do you drink out of plastic coffee mugs? Like, the easiest thing you can do is start to bring a glass or stainless steel water bottle or coffee mug with you. Like, I will have 1 or 2 stainless steel Yeti coffee cups in my car at all times now, because I know I can get that filled up at a local coffee shop instead of having them pour hot coffee into a plastic lined paper cup. A lot of people don't realize there is a plastic lining in the paper cup of your coffee cup. And whenever hot water or hot liquids come in contact, or oils come in contact with plastic, it's easier for that fluid, whether it be oil or water, to leach those endocrine disrupting chemicals from the plastic. So you want to think also about where you're sourcing, how you're sourcing your oils. So your oils, I know, for like thinking about even just at my parents' house, the olive oil from Costco, the large one, it comes in a plastic container. Can you really focus on trying to get that in a dark glass bottle instead? So what we're trying to do is lower the stressors that we're coming in contact with. And you asked me if social media was a stressor. Physical and emotional stress can happen through our relationships. And so this would be the time to get serious about communication with your partner. Like, it doesn't have to be therapy, but can you do a couples course online about learning how to communicate prior to having kids, to talk about or create space? I know, I'm an advisor for We Natal. You asked about a prenatal for men and women. This is really important when we think about getting what we need to protect DNA quality and protect against DNA damage. We can get a lot from our food, but it is so important to also supplement. And we see increased sperm count and morphology when men take this antioxidant-rich prenatal. And so We Natal will send you a prenatal for women, a prenatal for men, but they also have a journal when you're trying to conceive with your partner. It can be a stressful time because a lot of us push off getting pregnant, and then all of a sudden we're like, I'm ready. I want to be pregnant now. And it doesn't feel like you get it's like 0 to 60. There isn't like, maybe we'll think about it. Okay, let's try for a little while. Most of us have worked on our career or built our business or really excited, or we're meeting our partners later in life. And so the pressure feels like it's there to have a child. But that communication is really, really important, and being in a space where you're protecting yourself against negativity. And so that's why I think, social media, if there's ever a time to take a break from social media, that would be that trimester 0 or that preconception window of 3 to 6 months. Like, take a break, see if there's anything that's triggering for you, and start to lower those stressors, including, what you're watching, what you're reading, what you're scrolling. That can all make an impact on the stress that we are feeling, observing, internalizing. And so, if you can think about it as this little like protective bubble, it's like protecting yourself from the stressors. You're never going to be able to do it 100%. But those would definitely be my tips when it comes to making sure that you are doing what you can to protect DNA, the DNA of both egg quality and sperm quality.
Yeah, well, I feel like I have so many questions just from that piece, and I'm sure my listeners do too. And about seed oils, and there's coffee. And then I also want to just ask too, because I know it could be very stressful for someone trying to conceive, and just thinking about it could be stressful. And like, you're putting on the stress of like, oh my gosh, I have to eat all organic. I have to do this. I have to do all of the things to make sure my body's ready. And like the stress of that could maybe also be hindering. Not to say that you shouldn't try, but I'm saying, like try and balance things as well.
Yeah, I think what I would stress to people trying to get pregnant is that I think we can get pregnant pretty quickly, or we think it's really easy. And having some realistic expectations can lower the stress when you don't get pregnant. So for example, when someone's 25, they have an 18% chance of getting pregnant. And when they're 30, it drops to 16% chance. And 35, 12%. Over 40, 7%. And so when someone is coming to me and they want to get pregnant and we're working on nutrient intake, taking a solid prenatal, lowering oxidative stress, balancing their blood sugar, I also come at them with the real stats of, okay, you're 35 and you have a 12% chance of getting pregnant. I think at least it's been my experience when I go to get pregnant and I try to get pregnant. I'm a glass half full person. I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna get pregnant this first month I try. And so maybe if you're really thinking like I'd like to get pregnant this summer and that's 3 to 6 months away, it might make sense to start actually trying earlier and accept the fact that you might just get pregnant earlier. It might be that 1 month is you fall into that 12% chance. But the reality is it isn't as easy as we think it is. It's 1 in 8 couples will need fertility help. And so taking that seriously, if you are thinking about conceiving and being open to conceiving earlier, would be my recommendation.
Yeah. And for anyone listening, maybe you don't even have a partner yet, but you want to keep the door open maybe 2-3 years from now. You want to have that possibility. It's still a good time to really care for your body and prepare it now, years before. So don't just think, oh, this topic isn't even for me. It's really important because it can take a while. And I know you work with a lot of patients, and what is the most common factor you see across the board when working with patients with infertility? Is there like oh yeah, everyone has this issue?
No, I would say that we look at each patient or client individually, and what we're looking for is nutrient density. When we look at blood tests, we're looking for some of the higher causes of miscarriage, like if someone has low iron, if they have low thyroid, if they have low vitamin D, if we notice elevated glucose, insulin, A1C, those are kind of the biggest offenders when it comes to predicting a problem, getting pregnant or keeping a pregnancy. So when I think about preconception, if someone listening doesn't have a partner and they're, like you said, this is years away, now still would be the time to get a blood test, get your annual with your gyno and ask them to add on, not only are you getting metabolic markers, but you're getting thyroid markers. I would even add on that vitamin D and iron, like I said, but I would also consider adding on Bs like B12, B6. I would add on homocysteine and C-reactive protein. Those are markers of inflammation. And so what we can do is kind of look at the picture and track your progress over the years, year by year, to say like, how's my inflammation levels? Where are my metabolic markers? Is my blood sugar balanced? A1C is a good marker for that. I want you to be in the high 4s if possible, not in the high 5s. That's moving into prediabetes. We know if someone has elevated insulin, we can see issues like polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis. When someone has elevated blood sugar, elevated insulin, and when we see an elevated A1C, we have a harder time conceiving and keeping a healthy pregnancy. Even when we look at IVF research, if we want a better transfer, if someone's really down the road of fertility issues, a balanced blood sugar, a lower glucose number, a lower insulin number is going to improve the chances of that transfer being successful. So all of these things play a major role. And the reason why, when you asked, is the number one way to prepare your body for pregnancy blood sugar balance, I hesitated. It's because when we want to look at someone's whole body health, there are these outliers like low thyroid, which if someone has a low thyroid, their chances of miscarriage go up dramatically, So there are these outliers that really, if fixed, can help you keep a healthy pregnancy and have a healthy delivery. And so blood sugar balance plays a major role in keeping your body's inflammation levels down and in ensuring that or supporting the healing of or the ability to get pregnant when you're diagnosed with something like PCOS or endometriosis, when you have a IVF, when you have to go down the road of IVF and need a transfer. All of those things are supported by blood sugar balance, but it may not be the main reason why you're not getting pregnant or why you're having a miscarriage, if that makes sense.
I actually get asked quite a lot on my Instagram about what omega-3 oil I take and if there are any, quote, vegan fish oil supplements out there. Well, I actually don't take any fish oils and I haven't for a very long time. Once I found out, it's dirty little secret. Literally, I'm not sure if you know this, but omega-3 fish oil supplements often go rancid, resulting in supplements that don't improve your health and can often have a negative effect since you could potentially be consuming rancid oils. So instead of fish oil, try C15 from the company Fatty 15. The fatty acid known as C15 is the first essential fatty acid to be discovered in 90 years. And the best part, it is 100% vegan. Fatty 15 is delivering the world's first pure science-backed C15 supplement and has 3 times the healthy aging cell benefits of omega-3 or fish oil. That's crazy, you guys. This special fatty acid is derived from plants using a patented oxidation-resistant technology resulting in a pure form of C15. It's vegan and contains no flavors, fillers, allergens, or preservatives. C15 is the only ingredient in Fatty 15, which I absolutely love that this company just doesn't add anything else. It's 100% pure. Fatty 15 is also proven to resist oxidation factors both in and outside of the body and works in multiple ways. It repairs age-related damage to cells, protects them from future breakdown, plus boosts mitochondria energy output, and it activates pathways in the body that help regulate our sleep, mood, and natural repair mechanisms for healthier aging overall. This functionality leads to a myriad of exciting benefits now and as we age, namely improved metabolic, liver, and heart health, smoother functioning joints, deeper sleep, and healthier hair, skin, and nails. It comes in a sleek, reusable glass and bamboo jar, and refill capsules are shipped to your door quarterly in recycled material pouches. That's just 4 shipments a year. So whether you're vegan, don't like the taste of fish oil, or don't want to ingest rancid oils that are commonly the case with fish oil supplements, try Fatty 15 to help support and restore your long-term health. And who would I be without offering a discount to the Digest This community? So Fatty 15 has graciously given me the ability to offer you 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit. Just go to fatty15.com/digest and use code DIGEST, and you can cancel anytime, so you're not committed. Again, that's FATTY, the number 15.com/digest, or use code DIGEST at checkout. I have been a long consumer of colostrum for years and have known the benefits it holds for our health. It's been clinically shown to help guard against inflammation and everyday toxins and pollutants. Colostrum intake has also been linked to fewer respiratory tract and GI infections in children and adults. In fact, there are over 5,000 published studies documenting the benefits of colostrum and its ability to optimize health from when we are born all the way through to our elder years. It's even been proven to be 3 times more effective than the flu vaccine. Armra colostrum is different from others on the market, and it's something I started taking back in March 2023, long before all the hype. They use a proprietary cold chain biopotent technology that distills over 200 functional nutrients, guaranteeing the highest bioactive integrity and bioavailability. Another thing I personally love about this company is that they only extract and use the surplus colostrum from grass-fed, pasture-raised happy cows that are no longer needing it to supply their young. So you know you're not taking away from animals that need it. Only the surplus colostrum is used, and Armra makes sure they are getting only the best from healthy USA cows from family farms. Armra has 3 flavors: orange, watermelon, and unflavored, which is my personal favorite because the unflavored has no natural flavors and just one single ingredient. And Armra is the only colostrum on the market that's casein-free, which is the protein most people with a dairy allergy react to. And for those that do not have a true allergy, but rather have a dairy intolerance, the culprit is usually not the dairy itself, but rather the way that it's processed. All commercial dairy utilizes high heat and aggressive processing for pasteurization and sterilization. Unfortunately, this changes the structural shape of the proteins and destroys the omega fat molecules, rendering them unrecognizable to the body as a food. This is what triggers the immune system inappropriately, leading to intolerance symptoms like digestive complaints, rashes, and inflammation. However, Armra's innovative cold chain biopotent technology distills colostrums over 200 functional nutrients without the use of high temperatures, guaranteeing the highest bioactive integrity and bioavailability. As a result, Armra is actually anti-inflammatory and often well tolerated by consumers who typically would have dairy intolerance otherwise. The cool thing is that if you purchase the stick packs specifically and are not 100% satisfied, you can return the product within 30 days of purchase and receive a refund. So if you haven't tried Armra colostrum but have always wondered, now's your chance without any risk if you get the stick packs. Or perhaps you already are a user and lover like myself and prefer their canisters. You can still get a discount when using my code. Just go to tryarmra.com and use code DIGEST to receive a special discount for my podcast listeners. That's tryarmra.com and use code DIGEST on either their stick packs or canisters to receive a discount. Again, that's tryarmra.com and use code DIGEST. Yeah, well, I want to dive into that a little bit more because you are the blood sugar queen. And let's just go back. Like, what is blood sugar and why should we care so much about it? Because I think a lot of people, when they hear blood sugar, they think diabetes and weight loss. Like, that's all they think. But it does so much more. So can you explain why we should care so much about blood sugar?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so first and foremost, you want to know what blood sugar is, right? So blood sugar it's literally glucose floating through your bloodstream to fuel every cell in your body. So when we think about energy for our cell, the creation of ATP happens with glucose. It can happen with ketones, but your body prefers it can even make glucose from proteins. So that's important. But what has become like a modern day problem is the abundance of glucose, way too much blood sugar our body can even deal with. And so the easiest way to explain it is to understand what the 3 macronutrients are and what they break down to. So protein breaks down to amino acids. This is animal-based proteins like chicken, steak, fish, eggs, even proteins present in plants. So there are proteins in beans and nuts, tofu, things like that. So you have proteins in plant-based sources. Plant-based proteins are primarily incomplete. There are certain beans like the lupini bean, which is a complete protein. So there's a little bit of a caveat there. But when you think about proteins break down to amino acids. And then when you think about fats break down to fatty acids. So this is going to be olive oil, avocados, the fat in coconut. A lot of foods are not just one thing. So when you think about steak, you're going to have amino acids there. You're also going to probably have some marbleization with fat in there. So you're going to have amino acids. The steak breaks down to amino acids, mostly amino acids, and some fatty acids there too, right? But I always coach my clients to think, what is it mostly? Steak is mostly protein, it's breaking down to amino acids. Avocado is mostly fat, it's breaking down to fatty acids. And then you have carbohydrates. And carbohydrates are everything from your fruits, your vegetables, your grains, liquid sugars, maple syrups, honeys, processed flours, all of it, right? So the majority of your emojis is like, when I'm breaking it down for clients, if you open your emojis, it's like the waffle, the mango, the donut. Like, it can be very processed or it can be unprocessed, but all of those carbohydrates that are mostly carbohydrates are breaking down. And you can think about them like sugar or starch. They're breaking down to either glucose or fructose. And the majority of what they're breaking down to is glucose. And glucose, when you eat it, you chew it, digest it, you have salivary amylase, which is an enzyme immediately trying to get that glucose, immediately trying to break it down in your mouth, drops into your stomach. You have more enzymes and hydrochloric acid breaking it down. You're absorbing those individual units of glucose or fructose immediately after you eat it. And depending on the type of carbohydrate, so if it's acellular, which means it's been obliterated outside of its fiber cell. So think about an apple versus apple juice. An apple is a cellular carbohydrate, right? And that is because the sugar present in an apple is wrapped up in a fiber cell. Now, apple juice is an acellular carbohydrate because we've actually taken a juicer to remove the apple juice from the apple pectin and the fiber cell that's holding it together. So it's very fast to digest that apple juice. If you were to drink apple juice, it doesn't even need to be digested. It'll pass through your epithelial lining and it'll spike your blood sugar very quickly, very fast, because there's nothing holding it back. But fiber does an amazing job of slowing down the digestion of our carbohydrates and slowing down the release of glucose. And so when I think about balancing blood sugar, I always coach and train clients and patients to focus on what doesn't break down to glucose quickly. So protein breaks down to amino acids, fat breaks down to fatty acids. And then we think about the carbohydrates that slowly release glucose without a major spike and crash. These are your fiber-rich and leafy fiber-rich carbohydrates that are plant-based. Like, think about cucumbers, asparagus, broccoli, cauliflower, all your non-starchy vegetables, all your non-starchy fruits, even the carbohydrates present in things like nuts, like cashews, which may mostly be a fat, but they're giving off a little bit of carbohydrates and fiber because they are loaded with fiber there too. That's going to cause a slow rise in blood sugar and a slow descent. Now, when we think about anything that is acellular, these are anything liquid, right? So it's your honey, it's your maple syrup, it's any of your granulated sugars, it's any of your liquid sugars that are drinkable, like sports drinks, juices, sodas. It's anything that is flour based. So when you think about even rice versus rice flour, right? Or corn versus a corn flour. When something is flour based, a really good visual is to think about dropping it into a glass of water. And if you've ever seen, like, I have little kids that have crackers, right? And we try to buy a lower glycemic cracker that's maybe made of more whole foods and less refined wheat flours. But if you can think, like, I think back to my childhood, my parents used to buy loads of Ritz crackers. When I think about Ritz crackers dropping into a cup of water, they immediately disintegrate, right? Very quickly.
Yeah.
And that's a good visualization for people to think like, well, how fast will I digest this? And then because it's so refined, I want you to think about that literally covering your whole epithelial lining inside of your gut. Because if you're eating rice, those grains of rice, even if you chew them, are coming in bigger chunks and pieces. You're going to really have to work hard at digesting that. Whereas if you're having rice flour crackers and you chew that, it's a flour slurry that hits all of your epithelial lining, can pass through it, and cause your blood sugar to spike faster and harder.
What about smoothies?
Smoothies are, I mean, that is literally why I created the Fab Four smoothie, because it was so long ago now. I mean, like I'm old. So it was like I started this I went to school in 2011 and started my practice in 2012 and took it full time in 2015. But it was in 2012 when I lived in Brentwood in Los Angeles. I was going to these smoothie juice shops, and it was absurd to me. It would, even if they started the smoothie with liquid green juice that didn't have added fruit, and then all of a sudden they would add a half a banana, some berries, they're like superfoods. We'll add goji berries. We'll do an agave spirulina drizzle on top and granola. I looked at that and I went, this is literally like eating a king-size candy bar at the movie theater. Like there was so much sugar, and it is pre-digested when you have a smoothie.
Mhm.
So it's even more important that we're paying attention to the added sugars. And when we take fruit and blend it, we are freeing up all of that glucose and fructose to be absorbed and digested quickly. So it makes it even more critical that we have the things that don't break down to sugar and that bind up that sugar. So don't break down to sugar, meaning your smoothie should have protein, a source of healthy fat. You can add avocado. Maybe you add some, if you're a nut person, maybe you add some cashews or some almonds. Maybe you're like, I love olive oil, I'm going for brain benefits. Maybe you add a tablespoon of olive oil, but something to slow down the digestion of that meal. So protein breaks down to amino acids, fat breaks down to fatty acids, but together they regulate hunger hormones and slow down the digestion of that meal. And then when you think about adding fiber source, like psyllium husk is amazing, and it thickens a smoothie so quickly, but it also creates that fiber, that soluble fiber gel that binds up some of that sugar so that it isn't absorbed as quickly. And so then when you add the fruit, if you keep it in a serving size and blend it all together, you get an elongated blood sugar curve and barely a blip on a continuous glucose monitor. Whereas if you were to not pay attention to those macronutrients and not understand the science of slowing down and elongating a blood sugar curve, your smoothie could literally create prediabetes based on what you're drinking. And that's the problem too, because they're going to digest faster. You want them to last longer. So you need all of the macronutrients to regulate that those hunger hormones and elongate the blood sugar curve. And so it's hard for me to look back in 2012, 2013, 2014, when I came out with the Fab Four smoothie and was talking all about it and trying to teach people how to balance their blood sugar with a fruit-based smoothie. And I had a lot of people really angry with me. They were like, she is demonizing fruit. She is telling us that we shouldn't be eating fruit. She's too high protein. And the reality is I just saw this smoothie movement really take off. And I knew so many men and women wanted to be healthier. They wanted blood sugar balance. They wanted to see body composition changes. They wanted to see energy changes. And what I was seeing in practice and in person when I would go to these places was really dysregulated blood sugar, just a smoothie that would cause a 30 to 40 point spike in milligrams per deciliter of glucose, which, for reference, I would probably need to be having some kind of sandwich, bread, toast, pasta to have that kind of a spike. But it's liquid, so it's spiking fast and it's crashing fast. Whereas a normal blood sugar spike goes up for 90 minutes and like descends for 90 minutes, and we see that 3-hour curve. That's why old science, nutrition science used to say you should have a snack or a meal every 3 hours, because they were following this 3-hour curve. But what they didn't realize is when we ate a significant amount of protein, non-starchy vegetables, filled a plate, filled our stomach, we could actually go 4 to 6 hours without eating and without crashing and needing a meal. But these smoothies, which still are a problem today, depending on where you are in the country, we're going to see a major spike within a half hour, 45 minutes, and that crash is coming down faster as well. And crashes induce cravings for more sugar. They make us feel irritable. We can't concentrate. We can't focus, can't retain information. And so that is so sad for me that someone would be trying so hard to eat healthy, make healthy choices, eat whole foods, serve their children and their families these smoothies. In reality, it's just like they gave them some French toast. And an hour and a half later, there's going to be a toddler meltdown or an adult's inability to show up as their best self. And so, yeah, smoothies can be a major problem unless you understand how to balance them. But when you learn how to balance them, they can be an amazing tool for keeping your blood sugar balanced when you don't have the time to serve up, say, a big veggie scramble with
Yeah.
a side of sausage or something.
Well, I love that because I don't want people to think that smoothies are bad because you're a huge proponent of smoothies. Like you created the Fab Four smoothie. And I don't know if you have a smoothie every day, but I do. And it's all about, again, how you make your smoothie because I put zucchini, like frozen zucchini in my smoothie. And you know what I mean? And I make it super thick. And it takes me, and this is a question I have too, but it takes me an hour to actually eat my smoothie. And I say eat, not drink, because it's so thick. I eat it with a spoon. And I'm sitting there, I'm working, doing emails, which I probably shouldn't do while I'm eating. That's another thing. But it's real life. Yeah. But it literally takes me like an hour and I'm like slowly eating my smoothie. And my question is, a lot of people, the issue with smoothies is that they down them in like 10 minutes. So could just slowing down the way that you consume a smoothie benefit at all?
Oh, 100%. And actually, so funny that you bring this up. There's some studies happening in Sweden, and they were looking at they were weight loss clinics that used a scale-based tool, put your plate on a scale, and they knew how much gram quantity was on that plate. And all they did was track the speed at which someone ate a meal. And when you think about registering that you're full, to have that happen, not only do we need to eat and ingest amino acids and fatty acids, because we have nerves innervating our gut that are looking for specific amino acids and fatty acids. And we know that protein and fat play a major role in regulating a number of our hunger hormones and balancing them. But you have to chew or digest that food and get it down into your small intestines for a lot of those things to happen. So one of the things that we know when it comes to feeling full is that not only does our body need to register the intake of amino acids and fatty acids, which would happen if you had a Fab Four smoothie, right? You're cognizant of adding protein, you're cognizant of adding fat. The chewing is what initiates the release of salivary amylase, which is the enzyme to break down carbohydrates, right? But what's so interesting is that, smoothies, most of the time people are downing them, right? When it comes to eating a whole food meal, you're chewing, you're slowing down, you're taking a moment to say, like, I'm eating food, I'm registering that I'm eating food. And what happens is you realize you're full faster when you eat slower. So to me, it's not that it's a smoothie or not a smoothie. It's that you're registering that you're full. Because when we look at the research coming out of Sweden in weight loss clinics, all they did was use a scale-based tool to show someone how much food they had in grams and how slow they should be eating over time. And so what this tool did was for the fast eaters, growing up, actually, when I'd come home from soccer practice, I'd be so hungry. My parents nicknamed me Piranha because they said that I would sit down and eat so quickly that they would have to physically, they have to remind me to keep slowing down. And that's always been, I'm always the first person to finish when we're at a table with friends. I can think about one of my best friends from high school who's like family's from Ireland, and we would have finished lunch and she would be like a third of the way through her meal. And that is actually a skill. Slowing down and eating slower is a skill, and it allows for your body to realize and recognize that you are full and say, finish the meal or eat less overall, be cognizant of the fact of how much you need. Now, when it comes to smoothies, I love the idea of a thick smoothie. I love the idea of, adding something on top that makes you bite or crunch or chew.
Yeah.
But it isn't necessary. Like it really isn't, because the regulating, when you think about hunger hormones and calming hunger hormones, it's actually the inputs, the amino acids and the fatty acids, that have a bigger impact on feeling full. So I would say slow it down, make sure you have the right inputs. If you want to have some bonus points, throw something on top that'll make you crunch or chew. But with something that's pre-digested, like pre-digested carbohydrates, you're not going to need as much salivary amylase to break those down because it's so obliterated.
So interesting. Yeah. And I also wanted to talk to food drama for a second.
Yeah.
I've heard you say that before. So
Subtitle of my book.
what is food drama? But also, I also want to talk about that, but also the education that is lacking, especially for younger children, and the blood sugar. So I know that that's kind of a big question, but I wanted to kind of hone in on that.
Yeah. So I think, when I think about food drama, I grew up in the 80s, or I was born in 83. So that makes me 40 years old right now. And I think about not being educated when it comes to what my meals were consisting of. Like I didn't know that chicken was protein or steak was protein until I took health freshman year of high school, right? I wasn't privy to that knowledge. I didn't understand how or why the vegetables that were being plated on my, chicken, broccoli, rice, side salad of iceberg lettuce with Hidden Valley Ranch. Like I didn't know the benefits of the broccoli. I didn't know, I didn't really know much about my food. I wasn't involved in preparing it ever. I didn't have that exposure. It was just plated in front of me at dinner. I'm very grateful for my mom, and all the hard work of feeding my sisters and I and my dad, and like being there and making home cooked meals, because that's so, so important for families. But when it came to knowledge, I didn't really have it. And so when you're growing up and you don't have the knowledge of the food that you're eating, and you want to get fit, or you want to lose weight, or you want, you're in high school and you have prom. Unfortunately, the things that were at my disposal and things that my friends were using to feel good about themselves or lose weight included not eating, right? And chewing gum all day, or having a fruit cup from the high school cafeteria. It included things like the cabbage soup diet, and really, detrimental techniques for feeling and looking their best. And what comes with that, with the lack of knowledge, is insecurity and reaching for things like quick fixes. When I think about my mom losing weight back in the day, there were things like fen-phen, just amphetamines that supported that type of weight loss. There were, diet pills that were accessible at GNC to high school friends. Like there was no knowledge. And when there's no knowledge and there's no empowerment, and when there's no empowerment, people turn to quick fixes, and then there's drama, because you can't sustain those type of diets, lifestyles, tools forever, and they don't make you feel your best. And so then people try to enrich their life with knowledge, and maybe someone listening was like me, where they were interested in all of the knowledge. Like I feel like health, my freshman year of high school, was this class where I was like, this is so interesting to me. It's so exciting and so interesting, and I want to learn more. I found myself, subscribing to Women's Health and Health Magazine, and reading things like Protein Power, South Beach Diet, trying actually to look for the science. I wanted to understand. And I think when you start to go down that knowledge quest, you believe early on that something is right and something is wrong. And the minute you feel like you're falling into the wrong category, there becomes a lot of drama around food. You go out to a restaurant, you order something, and then you think, shoot, I should have ordered that other thing. It would have been better. And there's all this drama around right and wrong. And there's zero flexibility in how we can eat and live. And what my goal as a nutritionist, fast forward from when I was 14, 15, 16 years old to now being 40, the last 12 years of helping people with nutrition has been to lower the food drama, to tell them all the reasons why it doesn't matter if they're eating white rice or brown rice, all the reasons why their body is capable of being amazing and healing and metabolizing anything that they eat, but there are ways to enrich a plate. There are ways to add to a plate, to nourish. So we're really focused on I'm really focused on empowering my clients with knowledge so that they can take steps towards taking care of themselves and knowing that they're getting what their body essentially needs: essential amino acids from protein, essential fatty acids from fat. Why are the benefits, why are they benefiting when they add blueberries to that smoothie? Or why is it beneficial to, throw broccoli on a plate or asparagus, or even to grow an herb garden and add cilantro or parsley to their meals? Like, there are so many little things that we can do to add and nourish and balance our bodies. And I do that with my clients to take away the food drama of guilt, shame, feeling bad, thinking in their head, well, I learned this one thing, so now I'm, that coffee's covered in mold, for example, and now I'm going to feel bad getting a coffee out with my best friend. Like, that's not the way you should live or the way that you should feel every day. And we need to ditch that food drama and understand that we are so powerful and so capable. And if we can take steps towards taking care of ourselves, there's a lot of flexibility and balance. There is no perfection. And that's the same with blood sugar. People think, okay, Kelly's going to teach me how to balance my blood sugar, so I want my blood sugar to be flat. Newsflash, it's never going to be flat. Like, your blood sugar vacillates between 70 milligrams per deciliter and, let's say, 120 milligrams per deciliter. It can go up and down and fluctuate. It will never just flatline somewhere. And that, I think, is freeing for people, because everything is constantly fluctuating. It's how can you learn to flow? And so the food drama, getting rid of food drama is all about empowerment and finding the silver linings in all the things that you're doing, whether that be the benefit of sitting down with your best friend for that coffee and decreasing stress, the benefit of adding the herbs to your plate. Like, how can we find the good and feel good about that, get that dopamine hit, and continue to create a consistent behavior around taking care of ourselves? And so that is also extrapolated to my children and to my clients' families, because now that we know so much more, we can do so much better, as long as we don't say there is a best, because there's never a best and there's never a perfect.
Yeah. Well, and all of our bodies are so individualized that what may be beneficial for one person may not be beneficial for the next. And stressing over, like you said, like mold in your coffee or something like that, that could be just worse than actually getting coffee with a friend. And going back to the whole beginning of stress reduction, that's not going to help at all either. And so I love that you're really taking that approach to, let's stop the food drama, but still at the same time, be cognizant, care for what you put in your body, because we can't just be like, oh, forget it, I'm just going to eat McDonald's every day and, live my life.
Right.
So there is that balance.
There is balance. And I think, light structure is what I call the Fab Four. So the Fab Four is just a mini checklist to help ensure that you're getting your body the essential nutrients that you need and what you need to feed your microbiome, fight inflammation. And that's protein, fat, fiber, and leafy greens. And no one will dispute me that you have to get essential amino acids from protein, or that you have to get essential fatty acids from fat, or that you have to have some form of plant-based antioxidants, phytonutrients that your body can use to not only proliferate a healthy gut microbiome, which protects your epithelial lining, but those nutrients that can help you fight oxidative stress. Even the hardest core of carnivores are including things like berries or honey. They're and the reality is, like, there needs, the closer you can move towards the midline and find your groove and what works for you, I think the more balanced and relaxed you'll feel in your life. And like that's the goal for me. There's never hard rules. There are times, where my family goes out to dinner and I'm like, I would like to get those sweet potato fries. Like there's no perfection that is worth ruining your life and feeling shame and guilt and like you don't have a home in your own body.
Mm-hmm. Now, question for you personally, do you follow a keto low carb diet currently, or what's your go-to?
Yeah, I would say I eat carbs cyclically. So prior to when I was on my book tour for my first book, I went on a lower carb dip. I like to dip into keto. I used exogenous ketones back in the day before even Keto IQ became popular. It was like powder based. They were they tasted horrific, but I see the benefits in ketone production or ingestion for brain health, body health, lowering inflammation. Throughout pregnancy and breastfeeding, it doesn't work for me. I feel low on energy. I feel drops in blood sugar. Like I feel those changes, and they impact my ability to show up for my family and my kids, and my milk supply. So hasn't been the time or the place for me in the last 6 years to make that happen, because I've had 3 boys in that period of time, and I've breastfed each of them 18 months, 24 months, and I'm now almost at month 11 with my third. So I would say when I think about day in the life of me, like I wake up and I have a Fab Four smoothie every single day. Whether I take it to the office with me and have it for lunch, or if I have it for breakfast, it's in my routine. Even if I didn't have it for lunch or breakfast or lunch, I may throw in like a chocolate sea salt situation with some cauliflower rice at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, just
Love it.
because I like that balance. Prior to having kids, I did a lot more fruit-free smoothies. Now I incorporate a lot of blackberries, blueberries, and I think about that actually for nutrient density, because I'm most often sharing that smoothie with my boys. So I'm looking for quantity and variety of produce. I mean, this morning's a good example. I had a blueberry Fab Four smoothie. I used a scoop of my vegan protein, a scoop of my grass-fed beef protein. I had half of an avocado in there. I had, and I'm making this and then making my big cup and then like 2 littles too.
Okay.
They don't drink as much, like an ounce, maybe 2 at the most. And so I had a cup of blueberries in there. There were like 4 blackberries left on someone's breakfast plate that I threw in. Some raspberries also off my littlest guy's like his high chair. I am like a vacuum. It's like
No
cleaning.
food waste.
No, yeah, cleaning, but no food waste in my house. A handful of spinach. I had some herbs that I picked from my garden. I had some regular green leaf lettuce that went in there. Like I'm like the garbage disposal, but it's not being poured down the drain. So there was a lot of different plant-based fibers and phytonutrients in that thing this morning. And that was breakfast. I slow cooked 3 pounds of shredded beef. We had shredded beef tacos last night. We ate 2 of them. There was a pound left. I had probably like 3 bites of that from my fridge before the smoothie was made, because I was drinking coffee and kind of running around trying to get food on the table for everyone. I have really leaned into hitting my protein needs, just because my postpartum with my second was harder. Like I I eat animal protein and I was anemic, low iron and low ferritin. My hair was breaking, my nails were breaking, like I had dry skin. I wasn't my most vibrant self. And I was following the Fab Four that I always follow. I wasn't leaning into um, keto, but I will say when I am breastfeeding and I eat dinner at 6 o'clock at night and breastfeed a baby after that and go to bed, I can wake up and have ketones present in my blood the next morning. So this is when I'm eating berries, when I'm adding, purple potatoes to or butternut squash, or even like if I do my chicken curry for the boys, I do a chicken coconut curry, and I'll do half white rice, half cauliflower rice. And I may put like 2 scoops of cauliflower rice on my plate and a little bit of their 50-50 mix, which is 50% white rice, 50% cauliflower rice. I'll still see, and that's because it's just showing like my body is burning up this energy, working, providing breast milk for my boys, working out. Like I'm keeping up just now starting to keep up with the drop in what Julian needs for breast milk. I'm like finally in a place where my weight is starting to balance, and I'm not, because if you're eating clean and you're breastfeeding and you understand macronutrients, you're eating your protein intake of 1 gram per pound of body mass, and you're focused on whole foods, like I can see it go too quickly. Like weight loss happened too quickly for the clients I work with. And so I don't want that to happen, because that's when I start to see, thyroid issues, hair and skin and nails break down. Like I'm really trying to keep up with my nutrition needs in postpartum.
Yeah. Well, I know you're a huge proponent for meat, and let's talk about that, because how important is it, going back again to our first conversation about preconception, how important is meat at during, post, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So what's interesting is prior to conceiving my boys and having multiple pregnancies back to back, I've worked with clients in the past who were vegan, vegetarian, even like pescatarian, but only willing to eat fish like 1 or 2 times a week. And look, if you're not trying to have children, or you don't mind if your cycle is slightly irregular, or you just really are convicted that is the diet and lifestyle for you, like I'm here to support you and let you take it seriously. We're going to track nutrient intake in Chronometer. We are going to track protein intake. We're going to actually not only track protein intake, but we're also going to take into consideration that for every 100 grams of plant-based proteins you eat, you maybe are only absorbing 40 grams. Like that is important to recognize and be clear with. But when it comes to trying to have a child with a partner, or even if you're having a child on your own, but you're carrying that child, I'm not as open to a plant-based diet. Just very clearly, there are so many nutrients of concern here when it comes to cognitive development for that child, and neurological development, physical development, skeletal development, and nutrients of concern when you have a plant-based diet include your B vitamins, B12, B6, folate, your fat-based vitamins, vitamin D, vitamin K, vitamin A, choline, another really, really critical, important nutrient of concern for baby, omega-3s, DHA, minerals like, zinc, selenium, we get even down to like calcium. Like there's so much that's needed to make a baby in your body, and so many of us have suboptimal nutrient intake as it is, or poor digestion due to stress. And I can't, pun intended, I can't stress it enough. Like you need to be eating more than you think you need to be eating. And you need to be leaning into nutrient dense cuts of meat, including things like liver, egg yolks. Prior to conception, you should think about things like, and even when you've conceived, like oysters, like shellfish. How can we get you iodine? How can we get you these nutrients that make a major impact on your child's cognitive and neurological development? I mean, when you think about a baby's brain being over 70% DHA, which is a form of an omega-3 fat, and choline being the vehicle that delivers that fat to the brain, I mean, we should ring the bells. Salmon, egg yolks, grass-fed, pasture-raised wild meats, liver, like all of that is going to impact their outcomes. And it's so powerful that we have control over what we eat and the destiny of our child, like, impacting our child's health. I mean,
Yeah.
there are things that happen, don't get me wrong. Like I had, people know this who've listened and followed along. Like I had a very wonderful, like easy to conceive with, with all of my children, journey. I had a wonderful pregnancy with Sebastian and we had a horrible delivery. Like there are things that are going to happen. Motherhood brings you to your absolute knees, whether it's like a delivery, nausea during pregnancy, infertility, an inability to breastfeed when you want to, being torn from your child and having to work and, find childcare, like God forbid, like childhood illness or miscarriage. Like, I will say like, we all get our cards. I had a miscarriage before Sebastian during my book tour of my first book. Like it was horrific. Like I'm supposed to be living this like really happy, like major milestone in my life. And, I'm on the set of the doctors talking all about blood sugar, thinking like I'm going to spontaneously start bleeding because I know I have a baby who's in me that doesn't have a heartbeat. Like there are real things that women go through and we are warriors. And, if I can just say like, I just want anyone listening to know, like, if you are in like the eye of the storm and you are going through something in your motherhood journey right now, that like my heart and soul goes out to you. My prayers are for you. Like you will get through it. And if you can find the silver lining, it will help you like in your resilience through the story. Like having Sebastian, I can't imagine not having Sebastian. If I wouldn't have had that miscarriage, I wouldn't have had that little angel. And he's taught me more by having a horrible delivery of how I can show up for other moms and the pain and suffering that happens in motherhood. Like it's a gift for me to be open-minded in all the ways that we can be a mother. So, I mean, motherhood, it's it's
You're
a journey
making
to
me
get
all
to, and it's a
emotional.
journey to live through. It's a journey to live through for sure. But
Oh.
the joys of it are unmatched.
Kelly, I mean, you're getting me all emotional now just because every woman has something and they're bearing something, whether it's like you said, they're having some issues or maybe they can't get pregnant and that's the thing to bear. There's just so many things that women are going through. Okay, kind of had to regroup here for a second, but going back, meat again, it's so important. We all know that, and we've talked about a lot of foods that can benefit a woman's body. But are there any nutrients that we should actually avoid?
Um,
Maybe go ahead.
yeah. Well, when I talk about avoiding certain things, like I'm looking at mostly the like major causes of inflammation, right? So I am thinking about how can we pull out alcohol and cigarette smoke or marijuana? How can we pull out highly processed foods, food dyes, pesticides? Unfortunately, that to me also does include lowering or completely removing as much of the omega-6 industrial seed oils as we can. We know through the research that those highly inflammatory oils, these are safflower, sunflower, corn, cottonseed, even grapeseed oil. I know a lot of people, soybean oil, peanut oil, the things that if you see an oil that's on a nut, on a roasted nut, that's also a trigger, like, oh, that's one of those industrial seed oils, probably, right? Most often. So what happens is those oils are a byproduct of an industrial food making process, and it's not a food, but it's being used in the food supply, and they're very high and dense in omega-6 oils. Omega-6 oils are polyunsaturated oil or fat, right? Omega-3s are also polyunsaturated fats, but omega-6, when they come in high concentrations and when they've gone through this industrial process, they use high heat and hexane-based chemicals, which causes oxidation of these oils, making them corrosive. And unfortunately, we're supposed to have a 1-to-1 balance of omega-3 to omega-6. When I wrote my second book, it was 25-to-1, 24-to-1, omega-6 to omega-3. And now, there are stats that are 40-to-1, 60-to-1. These oils are being used in every processed food, even like some of the quote unquote grain-free, gluten-free, healthy paleo chips, crackers, bars. They're being added to like kids' food pouches or baby food. Like, it's kind of everywhere. When you cook at home, you can avoid these, right? And then if you come in contact with them out in the world, you don't feel as bad about it. But that omega-6 can cause HNE byproduct when it's metabolized too, which is a corrosive inflammatory byproduct that's linked and implicated in heart disease and cancer. So it's not innocent. Omega-6 oils are inflammatory. I just tell my clients that it shouldn't be used in the home. We want to use, if you want a high heat oil that doesn't have omega-6, but also is neutral, you can invest in Zero Acre oil, which is a cultured oil, but mostly just use like olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, any animal fats like tallow. Those are great, right?
Ghee,
And I think they've been
butter.
demonized. Yeah, butter, ghee, all that good stuff. Like, you're gonna get conjugated linoleic acid there. You're gonna get all the nutrients that your body is able to metabolize and use on a cellular level, which is great. So I think focus on the biggest offenders, try not to eat processed foods, and lower your intake. Like, if you're going somewhere and something is going to be like a sauteed or fried, like Chinese food, for example, they're going to be using a lot of that oil versus something that's like potentially a cedar plank salmon, or even a grilled steak. Like, less likely that they're dousing that in an oil and it's going to be a cleaner cooking technique. Or if there's a steamed option on the menu versus a sauteed option when you're in that preconception period or when you're pregnant. Those are ways to kind of avoid those things. And then you just kind of get into excessive amounts of processed foods and sugars. Like, we really just want to work on lowering those, finding alternatives to those, which I think you do a phenomenal job on your, on your social platform of like giving people options of like fun desserts or sweet things that aren't causing a huge spike in blood sugar or crash, that are really supporting blood sugar balance and inflammation levels, but hit the spot, give you that like sweet treat.
Those are some great tips, Kelly. And I do want to touch a little bit on children's health and the blood sugar and how that blood sugar regulation impacts our children's health. Because I feel like, a lot of our kids' snacks are just cookies, crackers, all that kind of stuff. So can you touch on that a little bit?
Look, it's probably the thing that eats at me the most, because those types of highly processed foods and snacks and sugars are available to children 24/7. Like, they're at school, they're at the sporting event, they're at the birthday party, they're at the, farm tour the other day. I'm like, what are we doing? They are everywhere. And we as the parent need to have boundaries for our children's health. Because what we see is an increase in diagnoses of ADD. We see mental health, anxiety and depression implicated when someone's on a highly processed, high sugar diet that has dysregulated blood sugar. We see issues with gut microbiome development. So you're talking about digestion issues and constipation in kids. When it comes to learning and retention, studies show that there's less retention of what the child learns on a highly processed, sugar-filled diet. And I can tell you, there isn't a mom who doesn't know that their child's mood is implicated by sugar. So whenever an adult has a spike in crash, we probably most likely are regulating that crash by walking ourselves back into the pantry, knowing that we're hungry or feeling kind of irritable, shaky, and we're reaching for something to elevate our blood sugar back up. Children will have a spike and crash and play or try to regulate through it, and then a meltdown happens. And it is a tantrum, it is dysregulation. And so many times, instead of focusing, I mean, it's good to focus on boundaries and pulling out sugar because you just have to, it's everywhere. But what I tell my clients is that breakfast is the most important meal of the day for your child. And when they get up, like my three boys got up this morning, we have the playroom, they're starting to play with toys, and we have eggs, we have sausage, we have berries. You know, they do like Birch Bender's paleo waffles, and I'm opting for that so that my child feels like, oh, I'm getting to partake in like what my friends get or whatever, but it's not a major spike and crash for them because the carbohydrate content in those are so low that I know, all right, how am I balancing this plate out? And if, for example, we use a triple fermented sourdough bread, I'll throw some avocado, a thick layer of avocado or peanut butter on that for them. I'm slowing that digestion just the same way we talked about that smoothie, slowing the digestion of that carbohydrate and really focusing on protein. I mean, we're to the point where we don't even throw the Birch Bender waffles in the toaster until they've had plated the eggs, the sausage. Sometimes, you know, like I said, I was eating our beef tacos from the night before. I'm modeling that. I brought that cold Pyrex to the table while they were sitting. My baby Julian had a few bites off my fork. Like I am, they know that I am in search of protein for them because instead of being like, no, 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 and making something taboo and off limits, I'm like, yes, yes, yes. How can you get protein? How can you get fat? How can you get fiber? How can you fill up? Because what's going to happen is you're crowding it out. You're crowding the sugar out and you're focused on that. The same goes for going to a birthday party. We never go to a birthday party hungry. We most likely are, you know, if we're going to someone's house or we're going to an event, my kids know that like they're sitting at the table, even if it's not a meal time, and we're going to have some protein before we go. The fastest, quickest way to do that if I'm on the go is like I'm giving them a Chomp's beef stick or a Thrive Market beef stick. They're having, you know, Paleo Valley, whatever it is that we have at the time, like I'm getting them the protein that their body needs prior in the hopes that they're just going to run and jump at the trampoline park or at the park, and they're not going to be as focused on the sugar. When it comes to the sugar, you know, my children, Sebastian has a dairy allergy. So I have, and have done this since he was quite little, is I do have to bring other things, other options for him. And that allows for me to have a little bit more control. I would say, even if your child doesn't have a food allergy, you know, getting together in the kitchen, modeling and exposing them to other forms of sweets. Like yesterday was Sunday and we made our version of like the perfect bar. Perfect bars do have milk powder in them.
Yeah.
They're also full of sugar, more sugar than I'd want my children to have in one sitting. And so we did, you know, peanuts and my protein powder, a tablespoon of coconut oil, and 1 tablespoon of maple syrup. And it was like, you know, it made 12 bars, and we spread that 1 tablespoon of maple syrup across 12 bars versus, you know, 5 to 15 grams of sugar in a lot of these types of bars. I know that they're getting 1 or at, you know, 1, maybe 2 of grams of sugar in that bar. And that's an option that they can have in their lunchbox today, and that they can have when they get home, when they're like, I want something sweet, but I know it's a little bit extra work, but it also is just peace of mind for me, because we know when kids are having more than 25 grams of sugar a day, their immune system functions less optimally.
Wow, so interesting about the whole immune system. And then that's another question I had. And I feel like just for time's sake, we're going to have you back, Kelly, because there's so many other questions that I want to ask regarding chronic illness and blood sugar spikes and the connection there. And I'm sure a lot of people are interested too. But for now, this has just been such a joy. It's just been mind-opening, really. Where can people find you on social media? Where can they get your books? Where can they find you? All that good stuff.
Yeah, so I'm at Be Well by Kelly on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, although I'm not very active on TikTok. I need to learn how to do that. But any of those platforms, and then kellyleveque.com or bewellbykelly.com will take you to my website. I have courses. So I have a course on how to build a Fab Four smoothie, which is like a mini course. I have Fab Four Fundamentals, which teaches you all of the science of the Fab Four. Fab Four Pregnancy, prior to conception through pregnancy. Fab Four Under Four, how to have boundaries for your kids and plate up Fab Four meals so they have balance. And I have proteins, vegan, which is a chocho bean protein, and grass-fed beef, a complete protein. We do minimal ingredients and no chemical extraction. So that was a need for me as a mom to be able to like drink a protein shake and share it with my kids, and know that it was a whole food source. On our sweeteners are organic vanilla bean or organic cacao, and we use organic monk fruit. So that 3 ingredients, unless you buy unflavored, which just has the one protein ingredient. That was a passion project. It's turned into a little bit of a full-time job, but it's really awesome to give back and have those type of ingredients available for moms who want to breastfeed, get pregnant, share with their kids, and keep their tools on their journey.
I love it. Thank you so much, Kelly. It's been such a pleasure again.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Digest This. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review in your podcast app to let us know. If you're ever wondering how you can support me and this podcast, sharing it with your friends and family is the best way. This is a Resonant Media production produced by Drake Peterson and edited by Mike Fry. To email the show, message us at digestthispod@gmail.com. See you next time. The content of this show is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for individual medical and mental health advice and does not constitute a provider-patient relationship. As always, talk to your doctor or health team first.